beneath an oppressive sky where dark clouds advanced like a silent army over rolling hills, the atmosphere at Sagebrush Ranch crackled with tension. Thunder rumbled in the distance, its deep vibrations travelling through the packed dirt ground as Apollo, a once majestic horse, stood motionless in the corral. His coat, marked by numerous scars, told stories of battles fought and survived, while his hollow eyes reflected a spirit that seemed broken beyond repair. This was no ordinary horse. Apollo had been a legend in his prime, a war horse whose courage had saved lives, including that of Marco Harper, the ranch's former owner. The scene shifted dramatically when an old pickup truck, battered and dust-covered, slowly made its way up the driveway. At the wheel sat Marco Harper, now 37 years old, gripping the steering wheel with white-knuckled intensity. The man who had once commanded respect in military circles had become a shadow of his former self, carrying invisible scars from losses that extended far beyond the battlefield. His return to the ranch after years of absence wasn't driven by nostalgia or property rights. It was compelled by an unbreakable bond with Apollo, the horse who had been both his partner and savior during the darkest days of combat. As rain began to fall in heavy drops, staining Marco's hat and mixing with his slightly greying hair, he approached the corral with deliberate slowness. Each step felt weighted with memories he had tried desperately to bury. Standing before Apollo, Marco's breath caught in his throat. The animal before him bore little resemblance to the spirited companion he remembered. Where once there had been fire in Apollo's eyes, now only emptiness remained. When Marco extended his hand, hoping for recognition, Apollo retreated, letting out a soft whinny that pierced Marco's heart more deeply than any bullet ever could. Their reunion, anticipated with equal parts hope and dread, revealed the depth of their shared trauma. Apollo's reaction, or rather his lack of recognition, spoke volumes about the psychological wounds they both carried. The horse's retreat wasn't merely physical. It symbolized the vast chasm that time, pain, and separation had created between them. As Marco gripped the fence tightly, fighting back tears, he realized this journey of reconciliation would be far more challenging than he had imagined. Yet standing in the pouring rain, watching Apollo's wary gaze, Marco knew he couldn't turn back, not when the possibility of redemption stood just beyond reach. In the background, Lily, a young ranch hand who had been observing the painful reunion, approached cautiously. "He doesn't trust anyone," she offered softly, her words carrying both warning and understanding. "Especially men." Marco turned toward her, but found no words to respond. He didn't need to. The weight of shared experience hung heavily in the air between them. They both understood that Apollo's current state wasn't a result of chance or nature. It was the consequence of something far more profound, something that tied directly to Marco's own haunted past. The rain continued to fall, transforming the ranch into a muddy testament to their shared history. As Marco stared at Apollo, his mind involuntarily travelled back to another stormy night, one that had occurred half a world away. The desert heat, the muffled screams of comrades, and the relentless sound of gunfire all came rushing back with devastating clarity. In those memories, Apollo stood beside him, not as a mere animal, but as a fellow warrior, drenched in sweat, yet unwavering in his loyalty. Together, they had faced enemies that seemed insurmountable, surviving situations that defied logic and probability. Now, standing in the familiar yet foreign surroundings of his childhood ranch, Marco felt the weight of what he had lost pressing down on him. The bond he had shared with Apollo, once unbreakable, now felt like a frayed thread, barely holding together. "I can't fail you again," he whispered, the words torn from somewhere deep within his soul. The storm around them seemed to echo his internal turmoil, each raindrop a reminder of promises broken and bonds severed. Marco knew that rebuilding what had been lost wouldn't be easy. Perhaps it might even be impossible, but he also understood that turning away would mean losing himself completely. Lily's presence nearby served as a silent witness to this crucial moment of decision. Her earlier observation about Apollo's distrust had been more than casual commentary. It was an acknowledgement of the deep scars both man and horse carried. Marco realized that Apollo's current state wasn't just a matter of physical separation, it was the manifestation of emotional trauma that mirrored his own. The horse's hesitation, his retreat from human contact, particularly from men, spoke volumes about experiences Marco could only imagine but deeply understood. As the storm intensified, wrapping the ranch in its tumultuous embrace, Marco made a silent vow. He wouldn't give up on Apollo, not because he owed it to the horse, but because saving Apollo meant saving himself. The invisible scars they both carried were intertwined, their healing processes inexorably linked. The wind howling around them seemed to carry echoes of their shared past, the chaos of battlefields, the loss of comrades, and the desperate struggle for survival. In that moment, Marco comprehended that their journey forward wouldn't be about returning to what they once were, but about forging something new from the wreckage of their shared history. The next morning dawned with deceptive clarity, the storm having passed but leaving behind an atmosphere heavy with unresolved tension. Marco had spent the night in one of the ranch's small cabins, though sleep had eluded him entirely. Lying on the hard bed, staring at the wooden ceiling, he found himself trapped between vivid memories of war and the present reality of his damaged relationship with Apollo. The soldiers' screams, the muffled gunfire, and the sight of Apollo running beside him through enemy territory played in endless loops in his mind, each recollection sharper and more painful than the last. At dawn, Marco returned to the pen, finding Apollo exactly where he had left him, standing still as a statue, staring into the distance. The horse hadn't approached the fence, not even when Lily brought fresh food and water. This constant state of alertness, this inability to relax, was something Marco recognized immediately because he lived with it every day. Leaning against the fence, he spoke softly to Apollo, his voice heavy with emotion. "I know what you're feeling. That sensation that you're still there, that you'll never leave, even though the place is long gone." Lily, who had been watching from a distance while gathering hay, finally approached. Her curiosity about the deep connection between Marco and Apollo was evident in her careful question. When Marco showed her a small worn piece of leather from Apollo's war equipment, the horse's brief reaction, a flicker of recognition in his eyes, confirmed the significance of their shared history. Though Marco initially resisted sharing details, the young woman's genuine interest and understanding created a space where he could begin to open up about his past. This tentative bridge of understanding between Marco and Lily proved crucial when he decided to enter the pen. Moving slowly and deliberately, he knelt down to Apollo's eye level, holding the piece of leather like a key to unlock buried memories. While Apollo's immediate reaction was guarded, Marco noticed subtle changes, slight head movements, ear adjustments, that suggested the horse was processing his presence differently. These small signs of progress gave Marco hope, reinforcing his belief that beneath Apollo's hardened exterior lay the same loyal companion he had known. Lily's observations from afar added valuable perspective. She noted how Apollo's reactions to Marco differed from his responses to others, recognizing patterns that even Marco sometimes missed. Her comments about the horse's scars, both visible and invisible, helped Marco articulate his own feelings about their shared trauma. Through these exchanges, Marco began to understand that healing Apollo wasn't just about addressing physical or emotional wounds. It was about reconstructing the foundation of trust that war and separation had shattered. Their interactions evolved into a delicate dance of approach and retreat, each party testing the boundaries of their renewed relationship. Marco learned to read Apollo's subtle signals, the positioning of his ears, the angle of his head, the rhythm of his breathing, developing a language that transcended words. Lily's presence provided both practical support and emotional reinforcement, helping Marco maintain his resolve during moments of doubt. Together, they created an environment where healing could begin, not through force or manipulation, but through patient understanding and consistent presence. The breakthrough came not with dramatic fanfare, but through a series of almost imperceptible gestures. Apollo's slight turn of his head toward Marco, followed by a subtle tilting of his ears, marked the first real sign of recognition. These small movements, insignificant to an outside observer, represented monumental progress in their journey of reconciliation. Marco, sensing the fragility of the moment, remained perfectly still, allowing Apollo to set the pace of their interaction. Their connection deepened when Marco shared a story from their past, the time Apollo had pulled him from a deadly situation in a valley surrounded by enemy forces. As Marco spoke, his voice heavy with emotion, Apollo responded with a single step forward, his hoof sinking into the soft earth. This movement, accompanied by a lowering of his head, signaled a shift in their dynamic. Marco's shy smile, filled with hope and regret, acknowledged the beginning of something meaningful, a small crack in the wall that had separated them. The sound of a distant helicopter triggered a flashback for Apollo, causing him to freeze and tense up. However, instead of retreating, the horse remained in place, processing the trigger with Marco by his side. This moment marked a significant turning point. Rather than being overwhelmed by his trauma, Apollo began to face it alongside his former partner. Marco's calm, authoritative voice guided them through the episode, creating a safe space where Apollo could confront his fears without panic. Their bond strengthened further when Marco discovered Apollo's injured leg. Rather than calling in the vet immediately, he chose to handle the examination himself, knowing that establishing physical trust was crucial. As he worked on the injury, speaking softly about their shared past and his own failures, Apollo gradually relaxed. The horse's acceptance of Marco's touch, despite initial resistance, demonstrated growing confidence in their renewed relationship. When Marco finished and gently stroked Apollo's neck, receiving no resistance, he knew they had crossed a significant threshold. These moments of connection culminated in a powerful exchange when Marco touched Apollo's forehead, feeling the warmth and life beneath the scarred coat. Apollo's breathing steadied, though traces of fear still lingered in his eyes. "You remember me, don't you?" Marco murmured, his voice filled with mixed emotions. This physical contact wasn't just a gesture of healing, it was a mutual acknowledgement of their shared traumas and the beginning of their joint recovery. The barrier between them, once seemingly impenetrable, had finally cracked, allowing both man and horse to start facing their ghosts together. The transformative power of Marco and Apollo's journey extends far beyond their individual healing, offering profound insights into the nature of trauma, redemption, and the human-animal bond. Their story demonstrates how deeply interconnected our emotional and physical wounds can be, revealing that true healing often requires addressing both simultaneously. The gradual process of rebuilding trust between man and horse illustrates that recovery isn't linear. It involves setbacks, triggers, and moments of doubt, but persistence and patience can eventually overcome even the most entrenched barriers. The narrative challenges conventional notions of healing by showing that sometimes the most effective therapy comes from simply being present and patient. Marco's approach to Apollo's rehabilitation, respecting the horse's pace, acknowledging his trauma, and creating a safe space for gradual trust-building, offers valuable lessons applicable to human relationships as well. Their story suggests that healing isn't about erasing the past, but learning to carry it differently, transforming painful memories into sources of strength and wisdom. Furthermore, their journey highlights the importance of reciprocity in healing relationships. Just as Marco worked to help Apollo recover, he found himself healing through the process. This mutual support system underscores a fundamental truth. We often find our own redemption while trying to redeem others. The presence of Lily in their story adds another layer of understanding. showing how supportive witnesses can provide crucial encouragement without interfering with the primary healing relationship. Ultimately, Marco and Apollo's story serves as a powerful reminder that connections forged through shared adversity can create bonds stronger than those formed in easier times. It suggests that our deepest wounds often contain the seeds of our greatest growth, and that facing our past with courage and vulnerability can lead to unexpected renewal. Their journey from brokenness to reconciliation demonstrates that healing is possible even after seemingly irreparable damage, offering hope to anyone struggling with their own invisible scars. As their bond strengthened, Marco introduced a small metal bell he had found among his belongings, a symbol of their survival during wartime. The familiar metallic sound echoed through the air, triggering a deeper recognition in Apollo. The horse approached cautiously, his eyes shining with a mix of familiarity and caution. This moment wasn't just about remembering the past. It represented their potential to rebuild trust and heal together. The training ground where they had once prepared for battle, now overgrown with vegetation, became a sacred space for their reconciliation. Marco's confession to Apollo, spoken with raw honesty, marked a crucial step in their healing journey. "I left you behind," he admitted, his voice trembling with emotion. "I thought I was doing the right thing, that you'd be safe without me. But the truth is, I was scared of facing everything we lost." As he spoke these words, something fundamental shifted between them. Apollo lifted his head, meeting Marco's gaze with an expression that suggested understanding and acceptance. The horse's soft whinny, a sound Marco recognized as forgiveness, sealed their renewed connection. This emotional breakthrough created a ripple effect throughout the ranch. Lily, witnessing their interaction from a distance, recognized the profound change that had occurred. Her calm smile acknowledged the depth of their reconciliation, a transformation that needed no explanation. As the sun began to set, Marco and Apollo walked together across the field, their steps synchronized in a way that spoke of restored trust and mutual understanding. This wasn't merely a physical walk. It symbolized their collective decision to move forward, acknowledging that while the past couldn't be erased, it no longer needed to define their future. In their shared silence, Marco and Apollo discovered something more valuable than memory, the strength to build a new chapter. The field they traversed became a metaphor for their journey ahead. Fertile ground where healing could take root and grow. Each step they took together reinforced their commitment to face the future as partners, drawing strength from their shared history while embracing the possibility of renewal. The sunset painted the sky with warm colors, mirroring the warmth of their rekindled bond and illuminating the path they had chosen to walk together. The impact of Marco and Apollo's reconciliation rippled outward, touching every aspect of the ranch's daily life. Lily observed how other horses seemed to respond differently to Apollo's presence, as if they could sense the shift in his energy. The once skittish animals began approaching their pens with greater confidence, mirroring Apollo's gradual emergence from his shell. Even the youngest foals appeared less anxious during feeding times, suggesting that the healing process had created a more peaceful atmosphere across the entire property. Their journey inspired a new approach to animal care at the ranch. Marco implemented training methods based on patience and empathy, replacing traditional dominance-based techniques. He introduced quiet hours where handlers would simply sit with the horses, allowing them to initiate contact. This practice led to remarkable improvements in several previously traumatized animals, demonstrating that Apollo's recovery wasn't an isolated case, but part of a broader paradigm shift in understanding equine psychology. The local community took notice of these changes. Visitors who had known the ranch for generations commented on the noticeable difference in the animal's demeanor. Word spread about the unique bond between Marco and Apollo, drawing curious observers and veterinary professionals alike. Several researchers began documenting their progress, interested in studying the intersection of trauma recovery in both humans and animals. This attention brought unexpected opportunities for collaboration with equine therapy programs, potentially helping veterans and trauma survivors through similar approaches. Lily's role evolved significantly as she became an integral part of the healing process. Her initial curiosity transformed into a deep understanding of trauma-informed care, leading her to pursue additional training in animal-assisted therapy. She developed a keen eye for recognizing subtle signs of distress in both horses and humans, becoming adept at facilitating connections between troubled animals and their handlers. Her personal growth paralleled that of Marco and Apollo, demonstrating how witnessing healing can inspire one's own transformation. The ranch itself underwent physical changes reflecting this new direction. Fences were rebuilt with wider spaces for social interaction, paddocks were redesigned to encourage natural behaviors, and quiet areas were established for reflection and bonding. These modifications weren't just practical improvements. They symbolized a philosophical shift toward creating an environment where healing could flourish naturally. The land seemed to respond positively to these changes, with wild flowers blooming in unexpected places and wildlife returning to areas that had long been dormant. Perhaps most significantly, Marco rediscovered his purpose through this journey. The man who had returned to the ranch, broken and uncertain, found renewed meaning in helping others navigate their own paths to recovery. His experience with Apollo became a testament to the power of perseverance and the possibility of redemption, inspiring him to establish a formal program for veterans seeking connection through equine therapy. This initiative attracted participants from surrounding areas, creating a supportive community bound by shared experiences of trauma and healing. As months passed, the ranch transformed into a sanctuary where both humans and animals could find solace and understanding. The relationship between Marco and Apollo served as a living example of how broken bonds could be mended, not by returning to the past, but by building something stronger from its remnants. Their journey demonstrated that healing wasn't just about overcoming trauma, but about creating a space where trust could be nurtured and new beginnings could take root, offering hope and inspiration to all who witnessed their remarkable transformation. The legacy of Marco and Apollo's journey extended far beyond the boundaries of Harper Ranch, becoming a beacon of hope for those navigating their own paths to recovery. Their story illuminated fundamental truths about trauma and healing that resonated across different contexts and communities. The intricate dance of approach and retreat, of recognition and forgetting, demonstrated that healing isn't a singular event but an ongoing process requiring patience, understanding, and unwavering commitment. Their experience challenged conventional narratives of recovery, suggesting that true healing often involves revisiting painful memories not to erase them, but to transform their meaning. The relationship between Marco and Apollo revealed how deeply interconnected emotional and physical trauma can be, emphasizing the importance of addressing both aspects simultaneously. Their journey highlighted the critical role of safe spaces in recovery, environments where individuals can process their experiences without judgment or pressure. The ranch became such a space, demonstrating how physical surroundings could be designed to facilitate emotional healing. This insight proved invaluable in developing therapeutic approaches that recognize the complex interplay between environment and recovery. Their story also underscored the transformative power of reciprocal relationships in healing. Marco's realization that helping Apollo heal was intrinsically linked to his own recovery process revealed a universal truth. We often find our redemption while attempting to redeem others. This mutual support system, enhanced by Lily's empathetic presence, illustrated how healing communities could be built through shared understanding and compassionate witness. The ranch's evolution into a sanctuary for both humans and animals exemplified how trauma-informed care could be extended beyond individual cases to create systemic change. Perhaps most importantly, Marco and Apollo's journey offered a powerful counter-narrative to the idea that some wounds are beyond repair. Their gradual reconciliation demonstrated that even the deepest scars could become pathways to growth and connection. The small, incremental progress they achieved together served as a reminder that healing doesn't require dramatic breakthroughs, but can emerge from consistent, patient effort. Their story became a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the capacity for renewal, even after seemingly irreparable damage. As their influence spread through the community and beyond, Marco and Apollo's experience contributed to a broader understanding of trauma recovery. Their journey validated the importance of non-verbal communication in healing relationships, showing how trust could be rebuilt through subtle gestures and shared presence. The ranch's transformation into a center for equine-assisted therapy demonstrated how personal experiences of trauma and recovery could be translated into structured support systems for others. Their legacy continues to inspire new approaches to trauma care, reminding us that healing is always possible when we approach it with compassion, patience, and an open heart.